ويعج العاجون ويضج الضاجون أين الحسن أين الحسين أين الحسن أين الحسين أين أبناء الحسين صالح بعد صالح. Imam al-Rida alayhi salam says, Inna yawm al-Husayn, yawm Ashura, أقرح جفوننا The day of Ashura has bruised our eyes وأذل عزيزنا وأحرق قلوبنا وأورثنا الكرب والبلاء في أرض كرب وبلاء إلى يوم الانقضاء. Imam al-Zaman, who is the one to receive condolences on this day, sends his blessings upon Aba Abdullah as-Saj. Assalamu ala al-Shayb al-Khatib. Peace be upon the beard dyed with his blood. Assalamu ala al-Khadd al-Tarib. Assalamu ala al-Badan al-Salim. السلام على الثغر المقروع بالقضيب. السلام على الرأس المرفوع. السلام على الأجسام العارية في الفلوات تنهشها الذئاب العاديات. Peace be upon the bereaved and patient one. Peace be upon the oppressed one who was without a helper. Peace be upon the one whose rights and dignity were violated. Peace be upon the one whose sanctity was desecrated. Peace be upon the one whose blood was unjustly shed. Peace be upon the one who was bathed in the blood of his wounds. Peace be upon the one who tasted the spears raining down over him. Peace be upon the one surrounded by murderous mobs. Peace be upon the one slaughtered in public. Peace be upon the one who was buried by the strangers from the villages. Peace be upon the defender who had no helper. Peace be upon the beard which was dyed with blood. Peace be upon the cheek that was covered with dust. Peace be upon the butchered body. Peace be upon the front teeth that were beaten with a rod. Peace be upon the head raised upon a lance. With the dawn of the 10th of Muharram, Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet of Islam, led his followers for the dawn prayer. He then wore his grandfather's armor and turban and put on his father's sword and stood to address his small band of followers. He began by praising Allah and His Prophet. He then declared to his followers, إن الله تعالى قد أذن في قتلي وقتلكم في هذا اليوم فعليكم بالصبر والقتال. Allah has willed that you and I shall be killed today, so be strong and steadfast. The Imam rode on his grandfather's horse and began preparing for war. As his companions mobilized for battle, the army of Umar ibn Sa'd encircled the tents of Hussein. Shumar attempted to approach the camp from behind, only to find a moat filled with fire blocking him. So he screamed, Ya Hussein, you have hurried to the hellfire. Hussein replied, you are more deserving of the hellfire. Muslim ibn Awsajah wanted to shoot an arrow in Shimar's direction, but Hussein stopped him, saying, Inni akrahu ana abda'ahum biqital. I hate to be the one to start the war. On the other side, Umar ibn Sa'd, the commander of the enemy's army, had come with no less than 30,000 troops. When Hussein saw their gathering, which resembled a mighty torrent, he raised his hands to the heavens and prayed, My Lord, you are my haven in every mishap, my hope in every predicament, my refuge and defender in every ordeal. How many a distress that weakens the heart, makes the enemy rejoice at the misfortune when I entrusted it to you and resorted to you out of preference over others. You did not let me down and had driven away and eliminated all these distressing things. You are the giver of every boon and the ultimate source of every wish to be granted. Umar ibn Sa'd, the commander of the enemy camp, then drew nearer to the camp of Hussein and ordered the bearer of the flag to move forward. He then took out an arrow, placed it in his arch, and shot at Hussein's camp, saying, Ishhadu li 'inda al-amir, anni awwalu man rama. Bear witness for me with the ruler that I was the first to shoot. The arrows then followed like rain, causing injuries to every single one of Hussein's camp. Imam Hussein then called on his followers, قوموا رحمكم الله إلى الموت الذي لا بد منه. هذه السهام رسل القوم إليكم. Rise to the inevitable death. May God bestow His mercy upon you. These arrows are the messengers of these people to you. Hussein's men waged a fierce battle in defense of their master. When the dust settled, 50 of them had lied down on the sand. When Hussein saw this tragic scene, he began pleading for help. ألا هل من ناصر ينصرنا ألا هل من معين يعيننا ألا هل من داب يذب عن حرم رسول الله. Is there no helper to help us? Is there no one to protect the sanctity of the Prophet's women and children? When the women heard his plea, the sound of their wailing and sobbing were heard in the camp. One by one, the remainder of Hussein's companions came forward. They asked for his blessings and permission to go fight, bidding him farewell. Then the companions proceeded to defend the messenger, the son of the messenger, and they were all killed one after the other. One of those companions was a young Christian man named Wahab al-Kalbi, who had met Hussein on their way and had become one of his loyal supporters. When Wahab wanted to go to battle, his young newly wedded wife told him, "Don't go, do not leave me alone. I am afraid you will get killed." But his mother encouraged him, saying, "Go and fight in defense of the son of the final messenger." He went and fought, then came back because he heard his wife saying, "قاتل دون الطيبين فداك أبي وأمي." Fight in defense of the pure ones. May my parents be ransomed for you. He came back to her saying, "What happened? A moment ago you were saying don't go, and now you are encouraging me." She said to him, "Ya Wahab, la talumni, فإن واعية الحسين قطعت نيات قلبي." Because the cries of Hussein tore my heart. I heard Hussein say, وَقِلَّةَ نَاصِرًا. He then went back toward the battlefield, fought the enemy until he was killed. When he fell down, his wife came to him. She held his head in her lap. Habibi Wahab. That is when Umar ibn Sa'ad said, "Let someone go and send this woman to her husband." So one of the wretched enemy soldiers came, struck her on the head and killed her right there beside her husband. Once all of the companions were killed, the family of Hussein prepared for battle. The first to come forward was Ali al-Akbar, Hussein's 17-year-old son. When Ali asked for his father's permission, tears began pouring out of Hussein's eyes. نظر إليه نظر آيس من وأرخى عينيه وبكى. He looked at him like one who has lost all hope. ثم رفع شيبته الشريفة نحو السماء. اللهم اشهد على هؤلاء القوم فقد برز إليهم غلام أشبه الناس خلقا وخلقا ومنطقا برسولك. O God, be witness against these people, for a young man has been forced to face them who has the closest resemblance to your prophet in his nature, manners, and in his speech. Whenever we yearn for your messenger, we would look at his face. O Allah, deprive them from the riches of the land, divide them and bring your wrath upon them. He then turned to Umar ibn Sa'ad. وَيْلَكَ يَا Umar ibn Sa'ad. Woe unto you. قَطَعَ اللَّهُ رَحِمَكَ كَمَا قَطَعْتَ رَحِمِي. May God sever your lineage just as you have severed mine. Ali al-Akbar entered the battlefield, killing dozens of troops while reciting the epic, "Ana Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali, Tallah la yahkum fina ibn al-Da'i, أضرب بالسيف أحامي عن أبي ضرب غلام هاشمي علوي." I am Ali, son of Hussein, son of Ali. We are by God closer to the Prophet. I fight you with my sword, defending my father. The unbearable thirst, the scorching sun, and the painful wounds of the swords soon forced Ali to retreat to his camp, asking his father for a drink. Hussein told him the pain would soon be over, saying, "It is only a matter of time. before your grandfather quenches your thirst with his eternal cup. Ali al-Akbar went back, fighting with greater valor. It was as if his grandfather Ali was on the battlefield. Finally, the evil Murrat ibn Munqidh, Ajarakum Allah ya mu'mineen, approached him and dealt a blow to Ali's head, causing him to fall on his horse. His blood began gushing from his sacred head and covered the horse's face. His horse, not being able to see, led Ali to the enemy camp. The troops attacked him from all directions. Thousands began striking him with their swords and cut him into pieces. فَقَطَّعُوهُ إِرْبًا إِرْبًا. Ali screamed so his father could hear him. أَبَا عَلَيْكَ مِنِّي السَّلَامُ. أبا عليك مني السلام فهذا جدي رسول الله قد سقاني بكأسه الأوفى. He offered his grieving father consolations. Here is my grandfather from whose cup I have drunk. Never again will I be thirsty. He says there will be a cup waiting for you. Imam Hussein rushed to his son. Seeing what is remaining from Ali, he threw himself from the horse upon his son. He put his cheeks on Ali's cheeks. بني علي على الدنيا بعدك العفا ما أجرأهم على الرحمن وعلى انتهاك حرمة الرسول. My son Ali, pity be upon this world after you. How dare they intrude on God and violate the sanctity of the Prophet. Hussein sobbed aloud, drawing attention from the enemy, who had not seen him cry like this until then. Imam Hussein then ordered the youth to come, carry Ali back to the camp. The women gathered around Ali, weeping, crying, and beating their heads. Betrayed and helpless, Hussein began pleading for help once again. When his cries were heard, even the children answered his call. The turn was now for the 14-year-old Qasim ibn al-Hasan, the orphan of Imam Hussein's older brother. At first, Hussein refused to give him permission, since Qasim was the orphan of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. But Qasim pleaded with his uncle, kissing his hands and feet, begging for his blessing. The Imam hugged Qasim and wept emotionally, and then allowed him to go. Qasim went to fight very bravely, reciting, إن تنكروني فأنا نجل الحسن سبط النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن بين أناس لا سقوا صوب المزن. If you do not know who I am the son of Hassan, grandson of the Prophet, the chosen one. This is Hussein, who is held like a hostage among people who show no mercy. The young boy fought bravely, killing many soldiers at his tender age, until his sandal snapped as he bent down to fix it. Ammar ibn Su'ad al-Azdi came forward and struck the young boy with his sword. Ali al-Qasim cried out, "Aghithni ya Ammar, uncle, come and save me." Hussein rushed to him, crying over his body, saying in a painful voice, "عز والله على عمك أن تدعوه فلا يجيبك." It is painful that I am helpless, that you call but I can't respond. أو يجيبك ثم لا ينفعك صوت والله كالرواتره وقل ناصره. اللهم احصهم عددا ولا ترض الولاة عنهم أبدا. O Lord, do not lose count of them and do not forgive them ever. My cousins, be patient, for you shall never see disgrace after this day. Qasim was then brought back to the tents. They put his body next to the body of Ali al-Akbar and other youth in the camp of Hussein. When Abbas saw the death toll rising, he stood up and ordered his brothers Abdullah, Uthman, and Ja'far to enter the battlefield and fight one after the other. Abbas's brothers, children of Ali and al-Baneen, fought valiantly and embraced martyrdom one by one. It was now time for Abbas himself to enter the battle. He came to his brother Hussein, seeking permission to go. Hussein could not bear to lose his brother. Tears filled his eyes. "Abbas, you are the bearer of my flag. If you die, my army will collapse. أنت كبش كتيبتي, أنت حامل لوائي. If you get killed, my enemies will rejoice." Hussein said to his brother Abbas. Abbas replied, "I am tired of these hypocrites. I cannot bear to hear sounds of the children crying of thirst. Their sounds of al-atash, al-atash are killing me. I wish to seek my revenge." صاحي حسين يا خويا يا عباس, يا نور العين يا تاجي على الراس, يا خويا انت الدرع والسيف والطاس. شلون تروح وانا ابقى محير. When Hussein saw Abbas adamant to fight, he said, "If you must, then go and seek some water for these children." Abbas mounted his horse. He took the water container and headed towards the river, cutting through the enemy lines. He was surrounded by no less than 4,000 troops who shot at him with their arrows, but he did not fear their multitudes. The standard hoisted over his head, he started attacking them until they all fled away from him. He managed to reach the river while overwhelmed with thirst. As soon he reached the water, he took a handful to drink. The enemy were saying, "If he quenches his thirst, it will be the end of us." This is the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib after all. To everyone's shock, Abbas threw the water back into the stream without drinking. He filled the container and walked out. No one knew why he did that. Why would Abbas not drink despite his thirst? They then heard him whispering, "Ya nafsu man ba'd al-Husayn huni, وبعده لا كنت أن تكوني. هذا حسين وارد المنون وتشربين بارد المعين." Abbas, you are worthless after Hussein. It makes no difference whether you live or die. Here is Hussein dying of thirst while you drink from the cool stream. Abbas couldn't drink while Hussein and the children were still thirsty. He filled his water skin, mounted his horse once again, and headed towards his camp. Bent on blocking his path, enemy troops surrounded him from every direction. Thousands attacked him all at once. Zayd ibn al-Ruqad and Hakim ibn al-Tufail were hiding behind a tree, awaiting for Abbas to approach. Zayd struck Abbas on his right arm, cutting it off. Abbas cried out, "Wallahi in qata'tum yamini, inni uhani abadan an dini." By God, if you cut off my hand, I will forever defend my faith. I shall protect my master, grandson of the Holy Prophet. He grabbed his sword with his left arm, continuing to fight while he headed towards the camp with the water container. Suddenly Hakim emerged from behind another tree, Ajarakumullah, and struck Abbas on his left arm, severing it. Abbas called out, "Ya nafs, la takhshay min al-kuffari, وأبشري برحمة الجبار مع النبي السيد المختار قد قطعوا ببغيهم يساري." Abbas managed to grab the water skin with his teeth. Staying without his two arms, he headed towards the camp, but they did not give him a chance. They showered him with arrows. One arrow pierced the container, spilling the water. Another arrow pierced through his chest. Another arrow struck his eyes. وَوَيْلِ عَلَى الْعَبَّاسِ وَوَيْلِ عَلَى الْعَبَّاسِ وَوَيْلِ عَلَى الْعَبَّاسِ. فوقف العباس متحيرا. Abbas simply stood still. Allahu Akbar. When the container became empty and with no hands to fight with and no eye to see with, Abbas lost all hope. He simply stood still. As he stood in despair, a man hit him with a metal pole on his head, causing Abbas to fall on the ground. عمد الحديد بكربلاء خسف القمر من هاشم فلتبكي اليوم ظهر. يا مؤمنين يا موالين, I ask you, when someone falls, how do they shield themselves from the fall? You use your hands, but with no hands, Abbas fell onto his face to the ground with the arrow piercing his eye. رحم الله من نادى وعباسا ومظلوما. Abbas called out, "Akhi adrik akhak." Brother, come to your brother. Abbas always addressed Hussein as Sayyidi wa Mawla. For the first time he called him, "Akhi, come to me." Imam Hussein rushed to him, causing the enemy troops to flee. إلى أين تفرون وقد قتلتم أخي؟ إلى أين تفرون وقد كسرتم ظهري? Where do you flee when you've killed my brother? When Hussein approached him, he first saw the water skin. Then he got closer. The standard was lying on the ground. Then he saw the two arms of Ammar scattered on the battlefield. Abbas was lying on the sand, but in what condition? Was Sahmanabitun fi aynih, an arrow planted deep in his eye, another in his chest. Hussein called out, Akhi al-Far, الآن انكسر ظهري، الآن قلت حيلتي وشمت بي عدوي. أخي من للعيال بعدك. Abbas, my back is now broken. Abbas, my enemy has rejoiced over your death. They were now clapping and screaming, Hussein is all alone. His Abbas is no longer there. Abbas, who will safeguard the daughters of the Prophet after you, O Abbas? Hussein then went back to the camp all alone, heartbroken, sorrowful, hopeless, weeping. وَيَمْسَحُ دُمُوعَهُ بِكُمِّهِ. He was wiping his tears with his shirt sleeve. Sakina approached and asked him about her uncle. Zainab asked, where is our brother Abbas? Hussein didn't say a word. He simply headed towards Abbas's tent. He removed its pillar, letting it fall to the ground, meaning Abbas is now martyred. Zainab screamed, وَأَخَاهُ وَعَبَّاسًا وَضَيْعَتَنَا بَعْدَكَ. The women began to cry, and Hussein joined them, saying, وَضَيْعَتَنَا بَعْدَكَ. We are lost after you, O Abbas. After the death of Abbas, Imam Hussein was left without any supporters. He looked around and saw nothing but dead bodies around him. He kept on shouting, Hal min nasir yansuruna. Is there no one to help us? Is there no one to protect us? Before Imam Hussein said his last farewell, he then asked his sister to bring him his infant Abdullah al-Rabi', who was just 6 months old. When he saw how the child was dying of thirst, Hussein took his child, he headed towards the enemy and cried, Ya qawm, laqad qataltum ikhwati wa awladi wa ansari. You have killed my brothers and my sons and all of my supporters, and I have no one left but this child. The milk in his mother's breast has dried up. If you show no mercy to me, then have mercy on him, for he is dying of thirst. He has committed no crime, so give him a drink of water. أَلَا تَنْظُرُونَ كَيْفَ يَتَلَظَّى عَطَشًا. The enemy was split. If you said this is but an infant, let us quench his thirst. Others said, لا تبقوا لأهل هذا البيت من باقية. Do not let any member of this house survive. Some of them even said, إن كان للرجال ذنب فما ذنب هذا الرضيع. If the men have committed a crime, what crime has this suckling infant committed? Fearing dissent and insurrection in his camp, Omar sought the help of his lead archer, Harmala. He said, اقطع نزاع القوم. Put an end to this dispute. Harmala knew what his commander was asking of him. Immediately, he took a 3-pronged arrow. He placed it in the bow and shot the infant with the poisoned arrow. an arrow designed to hunt the desert beast. The child's neck was too delicate for this arrow. فذبحه من الوريد إلى الوريد. It severed his head from the jugular vein to the jugular vein. رحم الله من نادى وحسينا. أيوة مظلومة وغريبة. The infant fluttered for a moment in his father's hand, his blood gushing from his tiny jugular vein, before wilting and freezing as Hussein looked at him. While crying and in shock, Hussein said, هون ما نزل بي أنه بعين الله. What makes this terrible is that it is in sight of God. The father then scooped the blood of the son with his hand. Hussein threw the child's blood, his blood to the sky, saying, إلهي إن كان هذا يرضيك فخذ حتى ترضى. Oh Lord, if this pleases you, then take until you are pleased. He then cried in submission. Imam al-Baqir says, not a drop of that blood came back to the ground. Hussein then took the slaughtered child to the camp. Zainab came to welcome her nephew. Sakina came forward. Sakina first said, هل أطعمت أخي عبد الله؟ هل سقيت أخي وأتيت بفاضل الماء؟ Did you feed my brother and bring the rest of the water back to us? Zainab came forward only to see the child in Hussein's arm with his throat slashed. Hussein then went behind the tent, his clothes drenched with the blood of his thirsty boy. He dug him a richer grave with the tip of his sword, then buried him in his blood-soaked garment. Imam al-Mahdi describes the scene as Salamu ala Abdullah al-Rabi' المرمى الصريح المتشحط دما والمصعد بدمه إلى السماء المذبوح بالسيف في حجر أبيه لعن الله واديه وحرمنا ابن كاهن الأسدي وذويه. Peace be upon Abdullah, the infant, the one who was left for dead. These are the words of Imam al-Zaman, fluttering in his blood, raised to the heaven, the one slaughtered with the arrow in his father's arms. May Allah curse Harmala who shot him. Hussein, ajarakum Allah ya mu'mineen. Hussein was now alone. He had no choice but to charge at the enemy by himself. He is described like this: Kana ayisan min al-hayat. He had lost all hope in this life. He attacked the right flank while saying, Al-Maut awla min rukub al-'ari. وَالْعَارُ أَوْلَى مِنْ دُخُولِ النَّارِ. Death is better than being humiliated, and being humiliated is better than entering hellfire. He then attacked the left flank while saying, أَنَا الْحُسَيْنُ بْنُ عَلِي آلَتْ أَنْ لَا أَنْثَنِي أَحْمِلْ عِيَالَاتِ أَبِي أَمْضِي عَلَى دِينِ النَّبِي. I am Hussein, son of Ali. I vow not to bow down. I am defending my family. I follow the religion of the Prophet. Abdullah ibn Ammar says, I have never seen a bereaved and grief-stricken man who has witnessed the murder of all of his children and companions, bearing the sorrow of all calamities, yet is more steadfast and brave and courageous than Hussein, so much so that no one dared to stand in his way. Hussein then challenged the enemy to come and fight him. Whoever came forward to confront him was sent to hell by Hussein's sword. Many of them were left dead, so Umar ibn Sa'd rallied his troops, saying, "Ihmilu alayh min kulli janib." You don't stand a chance if you fight him one by one. What do we do? Attack him from all directions. Thousands of enemy troops launched collective attacks against Hussein. He responded to all of them such that they fled from him like a flock of goats fleeing from a wolf. Having failed, the enemy decided to pursue another strategy. The archers then gathered around and shot 4,000 arrows towards him. أيوا حسينا وغريبا. Hussein was then prevented from reaching his women and children. Hussein then shouted, يا شيعة آل أبي سفيان إن لم يكن لكم دين وكنتم لا تخافون المعاد فكونوا أحرارا في دنياكم. Woe unto you, O followers of the family of Abu Sufyan, if you have no religion and do not fear the afterlife, then at least be free and noble in your world. And if you are Arabs, then return to your race. Shimr yelled, O son of Fatima, what are you saying? Hussein replied, I say I am fighting you and you are fighting me. It is no fault of the women, so until I am alive, keep your people away from my family. Shimr said, we will give you that, then ordered to focus all their attacks on Hussein himself. He then returned to the camp one last time. أجركم الله يا مؤمنين. This is the final farewell of Abdullah. He went back saying, Ya Zainab, Ya Kulthum, Ya Sukayna, Ya Rida, هذا آخر الوداع. This is the last farewell. قوموا إلى التربيع إن أخي دعا بجوابه إن الفراق طويل. فخرجنا ربات الخمور حواسرا وغدا لها حول الحسين عويل. The women gathered around him and started wailing and sobbing out loud. Hussein said, we shall meet in paradise. Be patient after my death. You have many tragedies awaiting you. Some say that a young girl whose father had been killed approached Abu Abdullah. She said to him, oh Uncle Hussein, my father promised to bring me back some water, but he went and never came back. I am thirsty. Abu Abdullah said to her, I am going to meet your father now. I will tell him that his sweetheart is thirsty. She said, oh, Uncle, but if you go and come back, it will take too long. Why don't you just take me to my father? Abu Abdullah said, if I take you, then who will bring you back? Ya Hussein, Ya Nabi, Ya Some have said that his daughter Sukaina came to bid her farewell. She said to him, Father, would you dismount your horse one last time? He dismounted the horse. She then said to him, Father, could you hold me and wipe my head as you do with the orphan children? She's looking for an excuse to spend a few moments with her father. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Abu Abdullah then mounted the horse, started proceeding towards the enemy. As all the women and the children looked at him hopelessly, he then heard a faint cry from the back, Mahlan, Mahlan, Yabna Zahra. Everyone say it with me. Mahlan, Mahlan, Yabna Zahra. Upon hearing his mother's name, Abu Abdullah immediately returned. It was the voice of his sister Zainab. My sister, why do you call me by invoking our mother's name? You know how much Hussein loves his mother. Hussein was there when Fatima was crushed between the wall and the door. Our mother is very dear to me. Zainab said to him, would you dismount your horse one last time? She then asked him to lift his shirt up. When he lifted his shirt, she kissed him on his chest, then on his throat, and on his forehead, then saying, Ummah, ya al-Hasanain, Mother, I have fulfilled my promise to you. When you asked me to kiss Hussein on these three places, Hussein then proceeded to the battlefield, confronted with an army of 30,000. He looked right and left, searching for helpers, only to find his companions slain like sacrificial lambs. نظر يمينا وشمالا فلم ير إلا من صافح التراب جبينه وقطع الحمام أمينه. Then he called out, Ya أبطال الصفا ويا فرسان الهيجة, O heroes of the battlefield, O knights of warfare, ما لي أناديكم فلا تجيبون وأدعوكم فلا تسمعون أنيام أنتم أرجوكم أن تنتبهوا. I call unto you, but you do not answer me. If you're asleep, I beseech you to wake up. Why, Ya Abu Abdullah? هذه نساء الرسول لفقدكم قد علاهن النهول. These are the women of the Prophet. They have been bereaved by your loss. Please rise, O noble ones, and protect the progeny of the Prophet from these wicked tyrants. Alas, death has prevailed over you, or else you would have supported me. ثم نادى بصوت حزين يقطع القلوب. He then called out their names, Ya Muslim, Ya Habib, Ya Zuhair, Ya Hilal ibn Nafi'. When the children and women heard this, they cried and wailed. So he repeated his plea, is there not a protector who can defend the sanctity of the Prophet? Is there not a believer who may fear God of that which is befalling us? The intense crying of the women and children then reached a new peak. Hussein's eldest son said Sajjad, who was ill, saw his father covered with the blood of Abbas, Qasim, Zuhair, Habib, and Muslim. He then suddenly stood up while leaning on a stick and dragging his sword. Hussein shouted, Ukhtah Zainab, احبسيه لئلا ينقطع نسل آل Muhammad. Take him back, lest the earth becomes devoid of the progeny of Muhammad. Imam Sajjad said, how could I not go when my father's all alone? How could I not go when he is pleading for help? Then the Imam challenged the enemy to come and fight him once again. Then whoever came forward to confront him was sent to hell by Hussein's sword. One of them says, I have never seen a man who is bereaved yet be so courageous. The enemy continuously launched attacks against him. As he was weakened, he paused to rest for a moment. أيوا ويلاه ومصيبته فوقف ليستريح ساعة. يا إمام الزمان أجرك الله. As Hussein was now resting, weakened by the thirst and over 1,900 wounds, grief-stricken, suddenly a tyrant named Abu al-Hutuf hurled a rock at his direction. The rock hit his blessed forehead, causing the blood to stream down the face of Abu Abdullah. He grabbed his shirt to wipe the blood from his face. Harmala was waiting for this moment. ساعدك الله قلب ساعد الله قلبك يا صاحب الأرض. Harmala then shot Abu Abdullah with a three-pronged arrow, which struck our Imam, piercing his chest, going straight through his heart. Abu Abdullah then screamed, Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulullah. He raised his head towards the sky and said, Ilahi, إنك تعلم أنهم يقتلون رجلا ليس على وجه الأرض ابن نبي غيري. You know full well, Allah, that they're killing a man that is not on the face of the earth. A son of the daughter of the Prophet saved him. Then Hussein tried to pull out the arrow. He couldn't pull it from the front. He tried to pull it from the back. The blood began gushing out. He took a handful of that blood and stained his beard, saying, هكذا ألقى الله وجدي رسول الله وأنا مخضب بدمعي. This is how I will meet my grandfather, smeared with my blood. Due to those attacks, our master, our Imam, al-Mu'mineen, فوقع الحسين عن ظهر جواده. Hussein fell on the ground from the back of his horse without lifting his head. A man then approached him. He began cursing the Imam, and then he struck him with the sword on his head, which was covered by his turban. The helmet was drenched with blood. He took it off, wrapped his turban on the cap, saying, may Allah deprive you of eating with your right hand. and gather you on the day of judgment with the oppressors. Ya mu'mineen, ya mu'alin, your Imam was now covered with blood, lying on the sand. Abdullah ibn al-Hassan, an 11-year-old boy, was watching his uncle surrounded by enemies. He pulled his hand out of his aunt Zainab's hand to release them. He hurried towards the pit where the Imam was lying. He sat on the Imam's lap, looking left and right, when an enemy approached and lifted his sword to kill the Imam. Abdullah called out, Ya ibn al-Khabitha, ataqtulu anni, O son of the wicked woman, you wish to kill my uncle Hussein? The boy shielded the Imam with his arm from the stroke of the sword, whereby his hand was cut off and was dangling by the skin. He looked at the Imam saying, Uncle, they severed my right hand. Ammar qad qata'u yamini. The Imam said to him, be patient, you will soon join your father. Harmala then came close and shot the boy with an arrow at close range, killing him while he was in his uncle's lap. أجركم الله. وبقي الحسين مجروحا على الأرض مليا. Hussein was now fatally wounded. He was left lying for some time. What prevented them from finishing him off was the fact that every tribe was relying on the other to do so. So Shimmer yelled, why are you standing like this? The man is critically wounded. Attack him from every angle. ما وقوفكم وما تنتظرون بالرجل وقد أدخلته السهام والرماح احملوا عليه. One man says, I was standing near Hussein as he was on the brink of dying. By God, I never saw a person getting killed, soaked in his blood, in a better state than Hussein. His face was luminous. It reminded everyone of the face of Rasulullah. I was so overwhelmed by the radiance of his face that I refrained from contemplating killing him. He then asked for water. They did not give him any to drink. One man said, I came to kill him. He looked me in the eyes. His eyes were exactly like the eyes of Rasulullah. The Imam then said to them, by my grandfather, I am thirsty. وحق جدي أنا عطشان. One from amongst the crowd said to him, you are not going to drink until you enter hellfire. Then you can drink from its boiling water. The Imam replied, I enter unto my grandfather, the messenger of God, and will stay with him in a seat of honor with the most powerful king. قال أنا أرد الحمية أنا أرد على جدي رسول الله. And I will complain to him of that which you have done to me and your transgressions against me. They became furious at his words, as if Allah did not instill a grain of mercy in their hearts. Now Umar ibn Sa'd, with a group of soldiers, is approaching the scene as Imam Hussein was at the point of death. عظم الله أجوركم يا مؤمنين. فحملوا عليه من كل جانب. Imam al-Sadiq says 30,000 people descended onto the son of Zahra to kill him. فَفِرْقَةٌ بِالسُّيُوفِ وَفِرْقَةٌ بِالرِّمَاحِ وَفِرْقَةٌ بِالْحِجَارَةِ. أيوة ويلاه ومصيبتاه. أعظم الله لك الآن يا صاحب العلم والزمان. Imam al-Sadiq then says, كانت والله الضربة فوق الضربة والطعنة فوق الطعنة. Every stab came on another stab wound, and every strike landed on another strike wound. Zara ibn al-Sharik then came, he hit him on his left shoulder, فضربه على كتفه الأيسر. Husayn ibn al-Numayr then came close to the Imam. He took a bow and arrow and he shot Abu Abdullah in the mouth. أيوة حسينا وحسينا. ورماه الحسين في حلقه وضربه آخر على عاتقه. Zainab is watching all of this. She then cried out, يا عمر بن سعد أيقتل أبو عبد الله وأنت تنظر إليه. Abu Abdullah is being killed while you watch. He then turned his face away from her to get الشمال والله دخل. تقول الشمال والله دخل. ما اريد اروح بين عينيه. يا ظالم يا ظالم اخوي حسين. Zainab, the daughter of Ali and Zahra, she couldn't see what was happening to Abu Abdullah. As everyone descended onto him, she wanted to know whether her brother was still safe. So she climbed on a cliff to see her brother. When she saw him, فَوَضَعَتْ عَشْرَهَا عَلَى رَأْسِهَا. She put both her hands on her head and called out, لَيْتَ السَّمَاء أَطْبَقَتْ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ. أيوا ويلاه ليت الموت أعدمني الحياة. Then she screamed, ويلكم أما فيكم مسلم. No one replied. Then Umar ibn Sa'd ordered the crowd, احملوا عليه وأريحوه. Descend upon him and put him out of his misery. Shimmer initiated the attack. He came to our Mawla Abu Abdullah. أيوة ويلاه ومصيبته. He first kicked Imam Hussein. Then he sat on his chest, took out his dagger. Hussein, 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 Ya 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 أبد والله ما ننسى حسينا. أبد والله ما ننسى حسينا.